Reno Miller, a struggling artist living in New York City, begins to lose his grip on reality as financial pressure, artistic frustration, and the chaos of urban life close in on him. Sharing a small apartment with his girlfriend and her lover, Reno's world unravels when a loud punk band moves in next door, depriving him of sleep. As his sanity fractures, Reno snaps and turns into a deranged killer who stalks the city streets at night, murdering homeless men with a power drill. The Driller Killer is a raw, grimy descent into madness, capturing the bleak energy of late 70s New York and the psychosis that festers in isolation and poverty. In the small, remote Australian town of Paris, a disturbing tradition keeps the locals alive. They deliberately cause car accidents to salvage vehicles and loot the victims. When Arthur Waldo, a traumatized survivor of one such crash, arrives in town, he's reluctantly taken in by the mayor and groomed to become a compliant resident. But as Arthur learns the truth behind the town's gruesome economy and the monstrous, weaponized cars built by its youth, tensions explode into chaos. Directed by Peter Weir, The Cars That Ate Paris is a surreal and darkly comic allegory about conformity, greed, and the twisted consequences of small-town isolation. Mari and Phyllis, two teenage girls, head to the city for a concert but fall into the hands of a gang of sadistic criminals led by the unhinged Krug Stillo. After enduring brutal torture and assault, the girls are murdered, and their killers unknowingly seek shelter in Mari's parents' home. When the parents discover the truth, they exact a horrifying vengeance on their daughter's murderers. Directed by Wes Craven, The Last House on the Left is an unflinching and controversial horror classic that explores the thin line between justice and savagery, challenging viewers with its stark portrayal of violence and revenge. A group of paranormal investigators enters the infamous Belasco house, known as Hell House, to uncover the truth behind its terrifying reputation. Among them are physicist Lionel Barrett, his wife Anne, and two mediums, Florence and Ben. As they begin their investigation, the team is assaulted by violent supernatural forces tied to the depraved spirit of the mansion's original owner, Emmerich Belasco. Rational explanations crumble as the haunting intensifies and the house reveals its malevolent secrets. Based on Richard Matheson's novel, The Legend of Hell House blends science and the supernatural in a chilling study of fear, corruption, and the persistence of evil. Frank and Lenore Davis eagerly await the birth of their second child, but their joy turns to horror when their newborn emerges as a monstrous creature with razor-sharp fangs and an instinct to kill. The mutant baby escapes the hospital, leaving a trail of bodies behind. As the police and media launch a citywide manhunt, Frank struggles between his paternal love and the realization that his child is a deadly threat. Directed by Larry Cohen, It's Alive turns the miracle of birth into a nightmare, exploring parental guilt, science gone wrong, and society's fear of the unknown with biting social commentary. Count Dracula, weakened and dying, travels from Transylvania to Italy in search of pure, virginal blood to restore his strength. Accompanied by his loyal servant Anton, the Count takes refuge with the decadent Di Fiore family, whose daughters may provide the nourishment he craves. However, his hunt for purity becomes a grotesque satire as he discovers that the family's morals are far from pristine. Directed by Paul Morrissey and starring Udo Kier and Joe D'Alessandro, Blood for Dracula, also known as Andy Warhol's Dracula, is a darkly humorous, erotic, and gory deconstruction of vampiric myth and aristocratic decay. In Victorian England, Sir Hugo Cunningham, a scientist obsessed with death, discovers that a spectral entity called the Asphyx appears at the moment of a person's demise. Believing that capturing it could grant immortality, he invents a device to trap these spirits. But as Hugo experiments on himself and his loved ones, his pursuit of eternal life spirals into madness and tragedy. The Asphyx is a gothic blend of science fiction and horror that examines humanity's fear of mortality and the dangerous temptation to defy nature, wrapped in eerie atmosphere and moral consequence. A young doctor arrives at a remote mental institution to interview for a job, only to be given a strange test. He must determine which of the inmates was once the hospital's chief doctor. As he visits each patient, 4 chilling tales unfold, stories of murder, madness, and supernatural horror. From reanimated corpses to deadly voodoo dolls, the anthology builds toward a macabre twist. Produced by Amicus Films and written by Robert Bloch's Psycho, Asylum is a classic British horror anthology that weaves psychological suspense and supernatural terror with a sinister, ironic punchline. The Carter family's road trip through the Nevada desert turns into a nightmare when their camper breaks down in a government nuclear testing area. Stranded and vulnerable, they become prey to a clan of cannibalistic mutants who live in the surrounding hills. As the brutal attacks escalate, the family must abandon their civility and fight savagely to survive. Directed by Wes Craven, The Hills Have Eyes is a gritty, violent survival horror film that pits the civilized against the primal, exploring how desperation strips away morality in the face of barbarism. Joanna Eberhardt, a spirited photographer, moves with her husband and children to the seemingly perfect suburban town of Stepford, Connecticut. She soon notices the local women's eerily submissive behavior and robotic devotion to domesticity. As Joanna investigates, she uncovers a chilling conspiracy. The town's men have replaced their wives with obedient android replicas. The Stepford Wives is a sharp blend of horror and satire, exposing the dark underbelly of patriarchal idealism and the terrifying cost of conformity. Its slow-burn mystery and feminist themes cemented it as one of the most influential psychological thrillers of the 1970s.